Hi, and welcome to the show. Today is Recovery Wednesday, and it is November the 30th, 2016. This month has gone by so fast. And I kept trying to make a stand, or I was making a stand, but I didn't succeed. As of tomorrow, our calling number will change. For today, it is 516-418-5786. And press 1, and that puts you in queue, and we would love to hear your comments and your questions because it makes it your show. As of tomorrow, so get your pen and mark this down, as of tomorrow, our call-in number will be 563-999-3581. And I'm changing it as we speak on the website, and I'll announce it again before the end of the show. Welcome, Michael.
Well, thank you, dear heart, and welcome everybody. We're honored once again that you're here to share this space and this conversation about recovering the truth of being, recovering the truth of who we are in a world that's taught us so many insane ideas. Had the friend who posted on Facebook this morning, and it was kind of a strange, kind of interesting post to see. But he posted just the words, "I think that God hates me." No conversation about what was going on or why, just the words, "I think God hates me." And, it's interesting the attributes that those who have no experience whatsoever with the pure active presence of love or God make up. When you will know you've had a direct experience of the Creator, when your physiology is so filled with love, and I'm talking about an ecstatic, blissful experience of the presence of love, you will then have experienced what people call God. Now, those who have no experience in that regard have made up so much about a theological monstrosity that is so bizarre that there could possibly be hate in it. And it just comes from a total misunderstanding of those who have been cut off from the experience of love, who experience hate, and then decide they want to go approach the Creator, and what they experience is their hatred in place of the Creator, and they make up things like God hates, God judges, God's going to punish, the whole insanity. There is none of that. Now, there's lots of religious dogma that will tell you all kinds of stories. I offer clearly, definitively, that those folks have no direct experience. They don't know what it is to be totally, completely filled on a cellular level with that presence. And then, there's a promise in the Beatitudes that says, "For they shall know God." And actually that Beatitude, and when we say God, strike the theological monstrosity and all the dogmas and doctrines you've heard from people who don't have a clue what it means. Anybody who can preach hellfire, brimstone, and punishment and call it about God doesn't have the experience, period. They've made up a story. Hold a newborn child. Tune into, breathe into the essence of that child, and you will know God. You will have touched the essence of what the Creator is, or what the active presence of love is. That Beatitude, it's actually the 7th Beatitude. And what it says is, and the Greeks tell us, it says, let's see, how does it go in the Greek translation? Blessed are they, it's not in my brain right now. The Aramaic is just there for me, so we'll talk about the Aramaic. So instead of blessed are they, it says a latent neural structure implanted by God to guide you to happiness and well-being will become your active possession. If you don't have that active, you'll make up all kinds of stories about all kinds of things. And all those stories will only tell you about you. It won't tell you anything about the world or anything about the Creator. So the Beatitudes tell us in Aramaic, if you go back to the first century meaning of the words, that inside of you there's a guidance system that's designed to keep you in happiness and well-being. And that particular Beatitude that says they will know or have the direct experience of the active presence of love, says those who through service work effectively to produce the peace and understanding in accord with the Creator's will. Peace and understanding are attributes of the Creator. Hostility, rage, fear, guilt, condemnation, hellfire, hell, suffering, pain, trauma are all attributes of the non-being mind. Give up the lie. There is no hate. There is no capacity for punishment in a Creator called love. But if we buy those things, we create those things because we're made in the image and likeness of the Creator as creators. And so if there comes a point where you have this thought, and it's usually promoted or, loaded up with a feeling of guilt or fear or whatever, that the Creator harbors any quality of animosity toward you in any way, shape, or form, you're talking out of the brain cells of men, the brain cells of carbon-based memory, and a past that is a lie. It's been an experience, but none of it's the truth about the Creator. And it was interesting because this person posted it, and then right after, minutes after it was posted, somebody else, a woman chimed in. It was a man who created that post, and a woman chimed in and said, "I feel the same way." What a sad reputation so-called Christianity has given the Creator. What an insane reputation. Time to give it up. You live, move, and have your being in the active presence of love. Your true nature is the offspring of the active presence of love. That's all you need to recover. Get back to that. How do you get back to that? You get back to that by acknowledging that everything you feel that is unlike that belongs to you and is forgivable. Now, that doesn't mean that God's going to forgive you for having had that. That's all based in the false fantasy of those without the experience. The process of forgiveness, we have people running around just like they talk about the hateful God. We have people running around the punishing God. And we have people running around saying, well, God's forgiven me, therefore everything's okay for me. God is never going to forgive you for anything. Because forgiveness isn't about being let off the hook. That's a Greek idea. That's another idea of men. Forgiveness means you remove what doesn't belong and leave yourself fully in the experience of a human being made of the energy of love. So this false Greek idea of, God's going to let me off the hook because I sinned. Remember, the word sin is just an archery term. It means off the mark. If I put an energy in that's off the mark, nobody's going to let me off the hook for that. It's got nothing to do with it. However, if I choose to engage in it and I ask the Creator to assist me in removing that, then the forgiveness, the removal will be carried out. There's been so much falsehood that's created so much suffering and trauma for centuries on the planet. And it's all based in a fraud. So we're here to confront the fraud and to love truth enough to recognize that if we've been lied to, and especially if it was pounded into us, we were going to get punished if we didn't believe it, gather some courage and question the lie. You live, move, and have your being in a totally all-embracing field called love. Men have made up other stories. The stories aren't true. And all you need to do is forgive those things that are not true, and you will recover the truth of who you are, which is love. If you haven't engaged in the forgiveness process as yet, if you haven't looked at the Aramaic process, it will shock you because it is totally backward. The reason it's totally backward is because the mind of men have it all backward. It's totally and completely backward in most men's minds. So it's a backward tool that will undo the insanity. And we have it freely available on our website, www.whyagain.org. Go to the website. The words at the top of the page are Start Here. Click the Start Here link. It'll take you into a whole series of links on how to engage in the backward technology, backward because men have got it backward, so it appears to the mind that this is silly and crazy and how could this possibly work? We invite you, don't believe a word I'm saying, just try it out and watch, and you will have a direct experience of the active presence of love in your physiology. There will come a point where, and I don't know if it's going to be your first wake-up sheet or your 1000th wake-up sheet, but there'll come a point where enough of the brain cell firings based in hostility or fear will have collapsed in you that there will be a shift take place. And what will move in you throughout your whole cellular structure will be this awesome presence of love. Now, if you're dedicated to your hostility, your fear, your rage, your guilt, your grief, and your lies, your dogmas and your doctrines, then you're probably not going to have that experience. You'll wonder, well, why am I not having that experience? Confront the truth, forgive the lie, and you recover the truth of who you are. Hold the newborn child if you ever forget who you are, because that's your essence. So we're here in support of understanding the first century Aramaic Yeshua's teachings on how to recover the truth of being, how to go back to the truth of who you are. And we're honored and delighted that you're here to share with us. And Jeannie, is Dr. Tim with us today?
I'm here.
Well, hey, young man, how are you? What's exciting in your world? What's on your mind today?
Well, ever since the group last night and through most of the morning, that group and the power and the dynamics of it and the willingness of people to use those tools to change their lives is what's been on my mind. We had an extraordinarily courageous person decide to do a worksheet last night, which opened the space for everybody in the room, which it happens every time, but sometimes the trauma, the drama from our past, physically, mentally, emotionally, is so intense that it takes a real deep willingness for a person to open up that space and go there, and that's what happened last night. A person got more honest and more willing and more open than the average person even understands is possible. And it was a deeply moving, transforming experience for that person who did the worksheet and for everybody else in the room. And, you know, it's two things struck me about it. One of them was what I just mentioned, how deep and effective the tools are, and when willingness and honesty are present, what can get moved out of one's system is just, it's beyond the comprehension of the normal mind. And then the other thing that came to me was, you have a rule when you do intensives that everybody in the intensive agrees to be there for the whole intensive and agrees to be in every class.
Right.
And people have that experience. I don't think anybody's ever been through an intensive where they haven't had the experience of somebody doing one of the following things. They'll ask a question, and then as you begin to answer the question, they'll get up to go to the bathroom. Or they'll get a headache and say they want to miss a portion of a class, and it's exactly what everybody in the room knows is exactly what that person needs to clear something or move to the next level or to see another deep piece about themselves. Now, we don't do that in the support group. We don't make people, commit to staying there for the whole session. And again, last night, it was just very, very obvious to me that this happens on a regular basis in the support group, when at the perfect time for somebody to have their issues shown to them because somebody else is working on their own issues, and it would resonate deeply with, one of the people in the room, that person just happens to take a phone call and then be gone for either the whole rest of the group meeting or just the processing time that's relevant to them. It's uncanny, and I understand it as well. I understand it as what Einstein talks about when he says if you think you're separate or separated from anyone or anything, you're living in an optical illusion. We're all connected. I understand it because of what Jung pointed me towards observing in this thing he called synchronicity. And so I will have 3 or 4 thoughts in a week about a friend of mine from high school that I haven't thought about in months or years, and then he'll call or she'll email. And so that connection is there, and there's a part of a person who is not willing that just alerts them from that, prescient, that, extrasensory perception. Hey, it's time for you to get out of here, because if you don't, you're going to have to look at something you really don't want to look at. So those are the 2 things that were on my mind. So that if I use that as, I remember one time not too very long ago, a few years ago on this internet show, Michelle was talking about that at an intensive, and she had a lot of physical upset going on with her, and for a long part of the intensive, she just wanted to leave. She wanted to go back to her room or be in the bathroom or whatever because she had such physical distress going on. And she talked about it on the show afterwards as becoming aware that that was all about an unconscious escape mechanism in her, and her internal struggles with that drive to leave and her desire to heal was very, very intense, and really presented a lot of turmoil for her, both physically and mentally. So those are the 2 things that I came away from our last night's group with. Great gratitude for the people who were there, and just a reverence that words can't speak of for somebody who's willing to go that deep and be that honest and apply the tools.
Yay. Yeah, it's interesting, and actually when you talk about how everybody in the room is aware, I mean, people will look at each other in a way like they're hyper-aware, except for the person doing it, and they're totally oblivious. No idea what just happened. And that's one of the reasons why in the intensive we hold that we won't do class if somebody isn't there. If somebody says, "Oh, I have a headache, I'm going to go lay down," it's okay. Well, we'll sit here and wait till you're back, because that's exactly the class that this person is going to find the key to one of their major dilemmas. And of course, that's the intuitive faculty working backward, and it can create all kinds of symptoms. Two thoughts in that regard is, and that's actually the topic of the intensive that's coming up in March that we're going to do on the beach in Oak Island in North Carolina. Will be 9 days of intuitive development to develop that faculty so that it's fully conscious. But the other aspect of it is, you remind me of the work of Dr. Sarno. And Dr. Sarno, and I know you know this, Tim, but for those who are on the show that don't, Dr. Sarno is a back surgeon, or at least he used to be a back surgeon. He's in his 90s now, and the last time I checked, he was still practicing at University, I believe it was University of Buffalo Research University. And Dr. Sarno had the best definition of back pain that I've ever heard. And the explanation is exactly what you were just talking about, Tim, exactly this principle, that and his definition of back pain is unconscious rage. And so he says that when someone has rage that they're not willing to look at, the body will take, or the mind is so genius in its unconscious dynamics that it will figure out a way to blame an event in one's life. So one will say, oh, I bent over and picked up a box wrong and I wrenched my back and that's why I'm in pain. And when somebody holds that thought, then what he says is that the mind then says, okay, there's where we put the rage, in that part of the back. And sure enough, somebody's got back pain there. And when he used to do surgery, like most back surgeons, he had the 10-15% success rate. And now teaching people that their back pain is unconscious rage, that the mind has made it up, that it's going to hide that rage somewhere in the back, and it'll make it up around some event. I bent the wrong way, I twisted, I turned, I picked a heavy thing up, whatever. He says that's all baloney. It's not to do with physical distress. But the mind is so genius in the same way you're talking about, Tim, that it makes it up that, that's how I did it, and that's why I have the pain, so that one can keep avoiding their unconscious rage. So it's pretty amazing, and getting people, holding people's feet to the fire to go through those layers. And I don't know if you put out the suggestion in the support group, but you might suggest that everybody stay in the room, or at least really be conscious. If, I got to pee, all of a sudden at this second, I have to empty my bladder. Yeah, I did it 10 minutes ago before class started, but now I have to go. It's the mind making up a way to escape what it intuitively knows is coming. And it's definitely a big key to work through that one, and all the escape mechanisms that the mind can make up to avoid and not deal with what's going on inside.
Yeah, I don't, at this stage of the game, I don't think it'd be that useful to try and require that kind of commitment from people. I am very happy to hold the space for those who already have the willingness. And my assumption is that when that person is ready and willing, they will find a way to bring into their experience that very same set of stimulus that will allow them to see what they need to release. And so I approach the support groups on Tuesday and Thursday very differently than I would an intensive. And I honor these people in their process. They're living their lives, they're working with their families, they're answering phone calls from their business, and if they think in this moment they have the urge to say that's more important, I'm just assuming they don't have the willingness, and that's okay. They'll have the willingness when it's appropriate for them and when the resources in their life are lined up to support them to go through this work. I sit in honor and amazement of people who are choosing to go to those deeper levels, even though they're not in the intensive where there is all of that support, where they know there's, basically round the clock love and support and tools and experts at using the tools. And these people are just coming in here, sometimes not even once a week for 2.5 hours. And so I am in reverence and honor of those who are choosing to make the most of that, and feel blessed to have the opportunity to share that with them.
Sure. Well, perhaps, just the invitation that just be really aware that if you find an excuse, your phone rings, or you got to pee, just be aware that circumstances might be getting ready for a piece of work that's getting ready to happen, and you perhaps are hiding it from yourself.
Are you there?
And one of the other, yeah, I'm here. One of the other things, and one of the reasons why over the years I came to the point where I made that a rule of the intensive, was that one never knows all of the ingredients that go into restructuring the energy system so this issue can open. The person who, maybe in the city of 2 million people, there's only one person who could really trigger this particular issue for me. And I had the inclination to go to the support group tonight, and there they were, and bang, the stars aligned. What all of the dynamics are to open this particular opportunity may take decades for some to recreate them again. And so I see it as really precious, and at least helping people to stay conscious of it so that they can take advantage of those precious opportunities. You know, who knows? You know, there might be one therapist on the planet named Dr. Tim Hayes who can really, for this issue, because he's been there, done that, in this moment, in this time, hold the space for this energy to move. And, you know, who knows what all the factors are and the work that it takes to get major issues or even minor issues to open. All of the energetic dynamics that need to be arranged for that to happen is certainly precious, precious time. So it's awesome that you've got those 2 groups a week, and I am so honored that you're doing it and that you're on this show with us virtually every day. And, you know, when we're stuck and you're available, you jump on, and just deep, deep, deep appreciation for everything that you do. Mucho, mucho gracias.
You're most welcome and deserving.
All right. Well, let's say hello to Gail and see what's on her mind for if she's had any opportunities where everything has organized itself to give her some opportunities to learn forgiveness, and anything to share with Recovery Wednesday. Gail, how are you, young lady?
She actually just dropped off the switchboard. Gail, if you're back on, press 1. There's quite a few people on the switchboard today. So we are glad. Oh, she just hit 1, so she's back on. Gail, how are you doing?
Hi. Good morning.
Hey, I don't know if you lost the connection there, but I had just invited you to share what was on your mind about Recovery Wednesday, or asked if perhaps the stars had aligned for anything big to come up for you since we heard your voice last.
I've had a lot of stars that have come into alignment, which have been pretty amazing. But some of the things that I wanted to contribute, and I've heard most of the show. I missed 2 minutes of it. I had another call coming in, and I needed to take it, and that's why I dropped off the switchboard. I'm
Sure.
on my way to a place that is a recovery home to work with a sponsee at 1 o'clock. So I'm also driving as well, and hopefully I don't lose the call because I'm driving through the country, and it's over the river and through the woods, so to speak. So hopefully I don't lose you.
Okay. But you're not on the way to Grandma's house.
Huh?
I say, but you're not on the way to Grandma's house.
No, not on my way to Grandma's
Over
house.
the bridge and through the woods, you know.
Yes. What is really great about this recovery home is that it's an old schoolhouse that was refurbished back in 1988, and it was put into place, or it was a vision of 2 women that did a fundraiser, and they walked across the United States in order to raise funds. They walked from Illinois to Arizona and back in order to create the funds to buy this school that had been closed, and then also put the work into refurbishing it. And so it has 15 male beds and 5 female beds, so there's 20 beds, and they're pretty much self-supporting through their own contributions by collecting rent or, different things that they do. So it's a pretty cool establishment to be a part of and to carry the message of recovery to. So that's an honor and a privilege to be able to do that. The thing that I was thinking about that Dr. Tim was talking about, I've seen it happen a lot in 12-step meetings, where people will bring up the topic and will be in such distress and drama and trauma, and they'll bring up the topic and will want experience, strength, and hope or a solution. And as soon as people start to give them the solution, they'll get up and go to the bathroom, or they'll get up and start to get their coffee. That happens quite a bit in that arena as well. I've seen that happen a lot.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, I understand too. I get it as well. I'm probably guilty of doing that too. The other thing too that I wanted to bring up, which is something that you talked about yesterday, about people not being able to do this on their own. And then you basically talked about the fellowship, the people, having the people in the community holding the space, so people could go through the deep levels of unconscious or carbon-based memory in order to recover their human life. And that happens in the 12-step world as well, that we are able to do that. And the first thing that we have to establish in order to get people to trust us to do that is identification. And we have a unique gift as either alcoholics or addicts or overeaters or gamblers, is that really only one alcoholic talking to another alcoholic to establish that identification. Another alcoholic that has experienced the spiritual experience or has worked the steps can touch somebody that is still sick and suffering like no other person can. And we're able to do that in the Aramaic forgiveness process as well, by able to have that, talk about what kind of drama and trauma that we've had and be able to teach them how to work the steps and acquire that skill set of, holding the active presence of love, being able to cancel the goal and then invite Ruka in, and then be able to feel and see those things that need to be revealed. That's quite a skill set there, and to be able to have that identification, to be able to get people to trust, to be able to go through that process is amazing. So those are the two correlations that I wanted to point out from yesterday's show. To have that fellowship or to have that community of love, which you say is interpreted, the church is interpreted as the fellowship of love, and liturgy is interpreted as our common work. And so I wanted to point that out and discuss that.
Cool. Awesome. Well, anything else exciting on your mind?
I made it through the holy days and was able to capture the active presence of love and hold that in the three particular settings that I found myself in last Thursday and last Sunday. And I canceled a lot of goals for my dad. And I almost made a clean getaway on the political front without him making any sort of comment. He made one comment as I was walking out the door, and I thought that was progress. I thought that was great, but was able to really be in touch with my inner guidance and intuition. And I asked my daughter if I could come and pick up my grandson and take him to the event early, and she agreed. That's a miracle in itself. And so my other daughter drove me to my daughter's place, and we picked him up, and were able to spend a lot of quality time with him. My daughter, who's the aunt, hasn't seen her nephew since July, and so she was able to spend a lot of quality time with him and watch him help his cousins decorate the tree and for Christmas, and just get on the floor and play with them and just capture those memories was awesome. But it took a lot of work to be able to be at that space of being able to hold that space of love and be able to do that. So that was great, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the 12-step tools, and I'm grateful for the Aramaic tools as well, to be able to enter that space, which can feel very hostile or bring up a lot of hostility and fear for me.
Well, isn't it wonderful when hostility and fear comes up and you know enough to go, this is about me, I can forgive this? Isn't that cool?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then one other thing that I wanted to touch base on about your intro this afternoon, you talked about basically what God can't do. and there's a I don't know which reading this is in. I know it's in Around the World, Around the Year with Emmett Fox. I know it's in that particular reading. But Emmett Fox was an earlier contributor to Alcoholics Anonymous, and they used his book. They used his book. Let's see. What book did he use? Okay, I can't. I don't have that book on my mind. But anyway, I can't think of the book that they used. But it's a book that basically takes apart the Beatitudes, and it's called Sermon on the Mount that he wrote. And he takes the Greek version of the Beatitudes that are in Matthew 5 in the Bible, and he has a very unique interpretation of those, which is very different from your interpretation from the Aramaic. But those distilled down become the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And one of the things that he writes about that I found in his meditation book that he has out, which basically after he died, his followers took a lot of his writings that weren't published and put them together and made a meditation book. Is he talks about the things that God can't do, and what he says in there. You know, if God is love and you believe God is love, these are the things that he can't do. He can't send sickness. He can't send despair. He can't send you to hell. He can't send pestilence and curses. He can't judge. And so it was basically along the same lines of everything that you said as well. And I just wanted to, point out that there's, other people that have written about this exact same thing. And I just went down into a valley, so hopefully hopefully you heard everything that I said.
Got everything you said loud and clear, and
okay,
I'm in full agreement. And the whole idea is to open the space for that connectedness and for people to have that direct experience. Then they'll know better than all the silly fantasies that those who have not experienced that connection tell us about.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that people, when they walk into their, into the 12-step recovery, they feel like because of all the, I'm putting this around air quotes, sin that they've committed in their active addiction, that they will not be forgiven, and that they're condemned to go to hell. And the helplessness and hopelessness behind that thought, or those series of thoughts, they're so ingrained. And I had a man, he saved my life. He always said at the meeting that I always attended that God loves us absolutely and wholeheartedly. And I remember walking up to him after the meeting and say, "How do you know that?" And it's because he had that spiritual experience. He had that bright light spiritual experience, or, and continued to have that contact, conscious contact with God by working the steps and continuing to go to meetings and helping other people. And I agree with you. And with that,
awesome.
as soon as you experience that, you know that you have Gnostic knowledge. Gnostic knowledge being experiential knowledge of the Creator. As soon as you have that experience, there's no turning back. Well, for me anyway, there isn't any turning back.
Yeah, one of the things is, though, there can be a forgetting. People can forget, and when we forget, that's the idea of having a support group. Of course, 12-step group. That's the idea of our show every day, is to help in the remembering. So, awesome. Well, Jean tells me that we've got a couple of callers on the line. So let's say hello and see what folks have got in their minds.
Blessings.
Jeannie?
Awesome. We actually have 3 callers, but this first one has been on since before we were on. So area code 207, you're on the air. Is this Shelley?
It is. It is.
Hey, man, good to hear your voice.
Oh, it's good to be able to put my voice out there. Hey, you said some stuff about unconscious rage, and it all ties into what I think something I feel is very important right now is in forgiving the lies within ourselves, because it is all lies. And when we start forgiving that energy is going to move. The more we work through it, the higher the vitality is going to go. The higher the feelings of guilt, hate, and fear, and all the other stuff that goes. That's going to raise, and it's going to put us into a mental capacity that our body is not going to want to go through this. Our mind does not want to go through this. And when this does, I want anyone out there listening to know that when you get to that vitality level, if you start feeling like you want to hurt someone or hurt yourself, get help. Call somebody. Get to that safe place that we talked about yesterday. Safety, safety,
Absolutely.
safety. Because if you hit a certain vitality level, you're going to have stuff come up that you're never going to realize that you had. You may even want to start hurting yourself because your mind is telling you to shut this crap down. Get help.
Good point, sir. Ties
That's
right
all I
into what
wanted
we're
to
talking about, the intensive and people staying. It's kind of like holding your feet to the fire and going through it. It's not easy.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Get help.
But we're also all on our own path, so we can only take what we can take when we can take it. So sometimes maybe when those people get up and walk out, they've reached a level that they got to back up and process what's going on right now.
Well, I think that often
that's why I like the way you do it. You stop the class when somebody goes to process, or you invite them back into process, back in with us.
Right, and one of the points in that regard, Shelley, is to recognize that no one has to do this on their own. That's an old non-being mind belief. I've got to do this myself, or I can't possibly do it because I don't have the skills, I don't have the abilities, whatever the beliefs are. And to recognize that the idea of an intensive, the idea of this show, the idea of a mind shifter support group is when you're not in the place with enough strength to hold the space and go through it, that you've got support for it. And you don't have to hold it yourself. So that's, of course, right in line with your emphasis on call for help, get support.
Yeah,
nobody
we can't
has
do
to
any
go
of
through
it.
this alone.
We can't do it alone. There's no way we can get through this alone. We have to have love and compassion from others to feed our love and compassion to keep us going. Right?
Yay.
It's all
yes, sir.
give and take. It's all give and take. The love and compassion is all give and take. But when that crap starts coming up, that's when it gets bad, and that's when a lot of us are alone when we go through it, and we got to put our place. We need to put ourselves someplace safe, wherever that place is, whether it's with a friend watching you for 24 hours a day for the next month, whether it's being in a hospital and having to write with crayons. That's what it takes to get safe. Then get safe.
And it may not be a give and take world; it may be a give and receive world.
Yes.
Maybe taking is something of the non-being mind, but it's really that give and receive. And oftentimes I think one of the reasons why people don't reach out for help is because they don't feel worthy of receiving it. And, to recognize that all that anybody needs to accomplish in order to be totally, completely, 1,000% worthy of receiving the active presence of love and total support is the Creator put the breath of life in us. That's all that's required. Nothing else.
Amen. Amen.
And so everyone is absolutely deserving of that. And the more deeply one is lost, I've said before that I would love it if I got an invitation from Satan to go into hell and teach why is this happening to me again, and redeem those who've lost the presence of love. Thinking in terms of that old story. So you're talking about
actually going. So you're actually talking about going to hell and turning Satan around to a compassionate, caring, giving soul.
Exactly.
Teaching him how to do it. That would be so awesome,
exactly.
wouldn't it?
If there were, awesome. And of course that's an old belief system. We know now from the first century Aramaic that the word Satan means the resistor, one who misleads, and it's an internal condition when we go into resistance to our process and we're misled in believing that somebody else is the problem. But in that old belief system, were such a creature to exist, which there is no such creature, that's not what the word means in Aramaic, but the Greek idea I delightfully go in and do a Y workshop. That would be awesome.
And right now you're talking about the devils within us and not the actual little red guy that wears a hat and a tail.
Exactly. You got it.
Yeah.
You got it. I love your process, sir, and I love what you're sharing with us, and just watching you and the layers you've been through and the intensity you've been through is just such a delight.
Thank you, sir.
There's a great line in the Course in Miracles that says, "Millions yet unborn will benefit from the work you do." Millions.
Yes. I want to encourage Gail, because of something she said just a little bit ago, to watch her regulatory speech, because she said that she captures the experience, the loving and compassion, and then she captures memories. We don't capture them. They capture us once we let them in. They capture us. They come in and they just take over. Loving compassion. It just takes over. You don't reach out and find it. It's just there. It's right there. It's all the time. It's in your face. And you're not out looking for it because you can't capture it, because that would be a capture. That's actually a violent word. I won't be able to look into that, the process on that.
Yeah,
that's
good point. Good catch.
Yeah.
You're ready to start. Get out there and teach, sir.
Thank you, sir. I'm working on it. I'm starting a Tai Chi thing right out here on the pavilion with one of my neighbors. We're going to see what that turns into. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you need to.
Well, there's other callers on. They need to get their turn, so they might need to process something. They might need some help.
Yeah. You might want to look on the website and look at the dates for teacher training this summer.
Okay.
And the personal code evaluation and get to the next level. All right, sir.
Okay.
Blessings, lots of love.
All right. Love you guys.
All right.
Shelley, before you get gone, Shelley, somebody in the chat room said, Michael, hit mute. She says, I don't know Shelley's story and I don't need to, but I have to comment that over the months I have heard him on this call and his voice is deepening and sounding so much more confident. Just a personal observation and appreciation of him and his work.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you. I do my work for everybody. My work is for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why I put it out there.
Absolutely.
So,
Mike, we have two more callers.
Love and blessings.
Let's say
Love
hello.
you too. The first one is area code 707. You are on the air.
Oops, no, I'm not. Whoa, hold on. Hi, are you there?
We're here.
Hello. Hi, it's me, Julie. How are you guys doing from Nevada?
Hey, we're good. Good to hear your voice. How are you? You've been through some challenges.
I'm hanging in there. Pardon me?
He said you'd been through some challenges. I wanted to add, too, I was just looking up some information for you. You had sent me a text and asked if there was any churches out there that teach the love of Jesus, Yeshua, and not the fear of God, and teach forgiveness instead of letting someone off the hook. And since you were right there at Las Vegas, I would suggest that you visit the Unity Center, and I'll send you the address, but it's on Warm Springs Road in Las Vegas, Reverend Sophia Falk. And she does a phenomenal job at her church. So I'll text you that information.
Wonderful. And I thank you very much for that because, I've been listening to y'all for, almost going on a year soon. And I hear about the Aramaic and all. My voice is a little shaky. I've been having a little bit of breathing issues. So hold on a minute. Okay, I'm back. Listening to the Aramaic translations, and I like it. I believe in it, and what comes out is, to me, exhilarating, and it has given me a renewed look at Jesus and God. And I've kind of come to the conclusion that, and this is only my opinion, that religion is politics, Christianity is hypocrisy, and spirituality is where we should be. And if we're where we should be, then the Christianity comes in and it's okay to be in the religion. And I'm hoping that makes sense. It makes sense to me. And I've struggled with it because I grew up with, you got to fear God. And I'm like, why? This is supposed to be someone who is loving and caring about us. And if anything teaches, this whole program and the tools teach us that. And so in the past year, I've been able to start turning around my feelings towards God, Jesus, and start believing in him as my best friend, somebody I could go to and ask for assistance instead of waiting for punishment. I have my physical medical challenges, and I'm obviously beginning to see where they're coming from and dealing with them. And when I go to him, that also lessens those challenges for that moment and that day, which means in my mind I'm healing that much more. So I just wanted to share that and say thank you, because, and that's why I asked too about a church, because so many of them teach you that, fist slamming and fear of God, and you're going to be in purgatory, or you're going to be this. And I'm like, why? I'm made in love, so why do I have to be in hell? So that's what I wanted to say.
I'm right with you. The only thought that I would offer to what you just said, or the only addendum I would offer, would be that if it's based in hostility and fear, it is not Christianity. It's a pretense. It's not what it is. If it's actually based in the teachings of Yeshua, then it's based in love, and that's going to be the conversation. All those other conversations are usurpers telling lies. That'd be my offering. Just like we're hearing about all these fundamentalist Muslims that are violent and beheading. That's not the Muslim religion. It's a falsity. It's a usurper that tells no truth. And so the truth is, when you come across actual Christianity, you'll find the sweet, awesome, active presence of love, and just study Yeshua's words, and that's what it's all about. But he was teaching to a violent world, and so many violent minds took it over and kept pretending that it was his teaching, and it's just not. Actually, my new book is called Resurrecting the End of Suffering, Resurrecting the Original Aramaic Yeshua the Christ. And it starts out with Yeshua saying, you realize that he's having a conversation with a character, much like the Why Is This Happening to Me Again book, only it's Yeshua speaking to a character. And he says, you realize they killed me twice. First they killed my body, then they killed my teaching. And I'm here to say that it's time to actually heed my words. I said, be the presence of love with those who hate you. Do good to those who despitefully use you. But trapped as they were in the commandments of men, they could not hear my words. It's time for my words to be heeded, and it's time for us to do that. So that's what we're looking to do here. And, of course, a part of that process is undoing every part of our own minds that interprets that through some sort of hostility or fear and pretends that it's justifiable. So you're right on track. I'm here to hold the space, and it's awesome.
Well, it's just the journey that I've been on to get me to come back into it in the, for lack of better terms, correct manner, and looking at it with my heart and my mind. Now, I know where the hostility and fear are coming from. I was 5 years old. My dad died. My mother, one day, in asking her, can I talk to Daddy in heaven? She goes, yes, of course you can. Jesus took him up there to be with him. A lot of years and decades went by. I didn't like Jesus. So my Christianity, and once again, this is all my opinion in stating my thoughts, And so, but my Christianity has been, but I'm not supposed to say, but I keep trying. I keep trying because I know he's there, and it's kept me on that path. And so I'm really happy for that. But that's where my hostility and fear originated. And now as an adult, mentally, it. Now I'm just hooking my mind and brain together, and it's starting to work pleasantly. But a lot of that is due to the Aramaic and learning about that. That has helped me to go, wait a minute, this is exactly how I should be feeling, and why have I been feeling the other way? So it's been a work in progress, but it has definitely been progress. Excuse me.
Well, I admire your being on track with it, and you know that whole idea of when the preacher didn't understand, have a clue what was going on, didn't know how the law worked, how this energy system works. They said, well, it's God's will, and God took him to be with it. And that's all just a fraud. God put us here. The Creator created us for eternal life. And if we die, it's because we've engaged in energy that doesn't belong to us. We do that to ourselves. But, you know, it's a great excuse for somebody who doesn't know how to explain it and doesn't understand it. Well, you know, it was God's will. God just took him. It didn't take anybody. That's just a thing made up by the non-being mind that has no clue how the energy system works. Go back, and the Scriptures tell us very clearly what causes death. It's engaging in energies that are off the mark, sin. We do that to ourselves. We're the only ones that can do it. And those energetic dynamics can rise up from the generations and destroy a person in a second. Mm-hmm. And the reason, because it's all about how energy moves. And if we, in advance of those things rising up, develop the skills, and you spent the last year developing a set of skills. And, you know, nobody starts with a set of skills and, you know, goes to postgraduate work. It takes time. It's a process. And these are the most subtle, the most delightful, and the most exacting skills you'll ever find. And it takes time to develop them. But if someone didn't understand that, didn't know that, then they've got this fallback excuse, well, you know, it's God's will. I remember working with a young man years ago, and he was 5 years old, same age you're talking about, and his mother was dying, and they told him at church that, you know, they were devout churchgoers. If he prayed hard enough, then his mother would live. And his mother didn't live. And he had such guilt because he didn't pray hard enough, and such hate and rage toward God. And it was just totally based in a misunderstanding and misinformation. So as you get closer and closer to understanding how these energetic dynamics work, how the law, you know, law in Aramaic talks about how things work. Law just happens. It's not the rule of a superior. But we've taken this human idea of, you know, the king wants to write laws and wants us to obey. So people think God wants us to. God has no interest in you obeying anything. God says, here's how the energy system works. You want things to go well, you do this. You want things to go crash, you do that. If you do that, things crash. And it's just because that's how the energy system works, and that's the whole idea of laws of living, is to come into a conscious relationship with that flow of information and energy. So we're down to the last minute or so. I'm delighted to share that. That's awesome. And we'll hold the space that you have the best year yet of your eternal life. Everybody, thanks for joining us. Pass the MP3 of this along. It'll be on the website right after the show. Put it on, attach it to an email, send it to anybody and everybody you know. Bring a stranger to the show tomorrow. And we'll look forward to talking tomorrow. Blessings.